This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Hey, Carm Capriato here, the Automotive Aftermarket Podcast guy, and welcome to the 622nd episode of Remarkable Results Radio. Now, here is another 20 questions in 30-minute episode with Chris Cloutier of Autotex.me and Golden Rule Auto Care. This unique format puts Chris in the driver's seat as he answers some tough questions about his passions, business, and life in general. This is one of those interviews that I enjoy doing, and you'll hear Chris and I get lost in his answers. Our aftermarket content is possible through the great sponsorships of Shopware and Apex. Hey, I'm sure you've heard that Apex 2021 will again have the best and the brightest trainers and another great schedule of technical and management training. I'm excited about being in Las Vegas this year, and this is specifically for shop owners and technicians. Now, stay tuned here for more details. For now, make sure Apex 2021 is on your calendar, November 2nd through the 4th in Las Vegas. Hey, how much paper have you touched today? Well, those are piles of time stacked all over your shop. Think of what you could do with all that time and how many more cars you could get through the door. Cha-ching! It's time for a digital shop management system on the web at getshopware.com. Hey, are you getting your fix of the weekly virtual shop tour and Aftermarket Weekly? Well, it's the rage here in North America to be able to see inside one of your colleagues' shops. Every week we do it live at noon Eastern on Tuesdays, but don't worry. If you miss it, I've got you covered. See every shop tour repurposed on aftermarketweekly.com. Hey, the key talking points for this episode with Chris Cloutier and a link to his previous episodes reside at remarkableresults.biz/E622. Hey, this is why I podcast. Hey, warm welcome to my friend Chris Cloutier, CEO of Autotex.me and Golden Rule Auto Care, Dallas, Texas. How are you, man?
Good. How are you, Carm? I'm doing fine this morning.
I'm great, man. And thank you for coming on and doing this infamous now. People love this show, by the way, 20 questions in 30 minutes. I get so many comments on this show. It's refreshingly, it's different. And I learned something about Chris I didn't know before.
Oh, that's good. Hopefully I'll have some good insight here. I think I confuse myself more than I confuse your listeners sometimes, Carm, which is maybe a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know.
That's all right. The thing I love about you is your drive, how much you care for the industry and people, and that you're a geek at heart.
Through and through. That's why I started playing in rock bands, so people would not be able to see through my exterior and think I was cool. But at my core, I'm a geek.
You just reminded me we were going to put a band together for IGONC this year. Of course, it didn't happen, so maybe next.
Maybe next.
All right, so that everyone knows, I send my guest 70 questions. They pick 20, send them to me, and then I put them in order. And so we're going to start out with, what drives you?
What drives me is my passion, just like you said, my passion for technology and change. So for a long time, I worked in corporate America. And once I got free of corporate America and got into my own groove, and you look at the world for what it could be, you find that you could be anything and everything you want to be. Whether that's a business owner of an auto repair shop, whether that's a software owner of a software company, I don't care, whether it's an owner of a property. But you start seeing that you could be your own boss and you become free. And that just drives me. That freedom to be able to jump to conclusions and do whatever I want to do. It's a good movie from reference, right? There was Office Space, and the guy wanted, after he got in a car wreck, he said, I always wanted to create this board game, and I finally got enough money to create the board game. And it took a car wreck for him to do this. And I always that scene always resonated in my mind. Well, why do you have to wait till you get in a car wreck to go do what you want to do? So thankfully, the Lord has put the passion in me to go be on my own.
So what do you want to grow up and be?
I got asked this the other day by an investor, an advisor, and he said, Chris, before you go and do this next thing, because of course I'm working on something new, he goes, I need to ask you one question. He goes, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, this is it. This is what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be able to make stuff. I want to be able to think about things and build things. Whether or not they make sense to everybody else, it doesn't matter, but they make sense to me. When I was a kid, it wasn't necessarily smiled upon. It was a little more frowned upon when I had all these ideas and wanted to do all these crazy things. But now, once again, I've said this before in previous podcasts, this word entrepreneur has become this really cool, exciting word. And it's cool to be an entrepreneur. So finally, and I call it ADD, but we can call it entrepreneur all day. Because I'm always working on something. It's funny, people will go, "Are you busy, Chris?" They'll text me and they'll say, "Are you busy?" And I'm like, never busy. This mind is why I don't have any hair on top, right? It doesn't stop. I think I smoked it all off, burned it all off years ago.
We're so much alike. It's very difficult to turn it off for me.
Absolutely.
It's ADD, it's entrepreneurialism, it's visionary, it's ideation. I don't pick one.
Well, we were just talking about before this, right before you're rolling camera, all the things that you've got going on, all the exciting things. I see the way your mind works, and it's beautiful. I think it's great.
It's a beautiful mind. Thank you. You too. Hey, what impact is technology going to have on your business going forward?
Technology has been a massive multiplier in my business. And that's a setup question. It's funny, Carm, when you sent 70 questions, you think it's easy to go pick 20, but it's not. So I sent a couple of softball questions. Obviously, I own a technology company. I build technology to accentuate what we already do in the service industry. And so I'm always leveraging technology, looking at new technology to bring into my business. And obviously I have a product, right? But I use it. I use it daily. I use it in both shops daily. We're constantly adding on to it. We're constantly changing it. We're constantly changing. Because ultimately what I want is I want a successful customer experience, and I want a productive and efficient shop. And I always think people go, well, technology, Chris, it confuses me. It gets in my way. It doesn't work for me. And I think, well, if it does that, then you're using the wrong technology. People don't like Amazon, but I'll tell you something. Amazon's easy to order from, and they have built a great interface into buying a product. And now everybody copies them online in their storefront. And it used to be hard to buy things online. If you remember 10, 15 years ago, it was not easy to buy things online. Amazon has innovated and made that super simple.
They are an easy button.
They're an easy button.
You stay very close to technology. You absorb this geekness. Any tech you're going to add to your business in the next 6 months that you like?
So as a matter of fact, not that I don't have enough to do with a couple shops and software, we have this new product that actually I've been working out in my base, and it's called Baywatcher.io, aka Baywatch. So we're watching vehicles in real time in our base using ALPR, Advanced License Plate Reader technology, object recognition to recognize the car and the license plate to see what truly is efficient or non-efficient in your base. So this was a problem that was introduced to me when I bought my shop. And people say, hey, your bays are not as efficient as you thought they would be. And there's a ceiling to your shop and how much money you could make. And there's all these formulas to figure this out. And I thought, no, I don't believe it. And I want data to back it up. So it's taken me many years to develop this product. No, it's not on the market yet. I've got it running in both my shops. And that's it, real time. Where is the car and what bay? It tells me what bay. It tells me how long it's set in that bay. I can look and see if the work order is diametrically opposed to how long it's been there. And some of these cars, it's amazing. And I think I run a good shop. I run two good shops. But there's times, Carm, I'll see a car that's been in there for 10 hours and we've charged the customer 2 hours. And you see that kind of data and you're like, wow, what can you do with that? And we start talking about efficiency. We started talking about productivity in our shops. We always talk about lean. But if you don't have the data and your guys don't have the data or your people don't have the data in the shop, they don't know. Everybody thinks that car's only been sitting there 30 minutes. That's not the truth.
I guarantee you our listener right now has 30 questions and ideas or thoughts about this going through their mind, just like I do. Now, I know we need to stay on target, but man, we booked him for 2. We actually worked on them for 2, but they were sitting in the bay. Why weren't they out in another car in its place? So we're doing something else. Obviously, we aren't as busy as we should, and that shows you some other areas of weakness in the business.
Boom. How many times does somebody come in and they say, can I get an oil change? And your people at the front counter say, we're super busy right now. But you're really not, because 3 of those cars are estimating. They don't want to put them back on. They don't want to roll them out. And it happens all day long, every day. And once again, we'd like to think that we run our shops and we run them tight, but it's amazing. These numbers I get now, Carm, and this is real-time data. It is mind-blowing. And once again, something I've been working on for years with the new technology. As technology advances, as camera technology has advanced, as object recognition has advanced, this is something. So I'm a technology guy through and through, right? I got 10 other projects that if I could split myself into tenths, then I would have 10 other projects going on right now. And I do anyways. But I got to be careful. I got to chase, it's called chasing butterflies, right?
When you're ready, promise me the first interview when this thing launches, huh?
You got it.
Chris, what are you afraid of?
I am afraid of failure. And I know we can say this all day, and we say this, Carm, when we go on your show, and we say, failure is a part of success, and we say it with bravado. But truly, if I'm being a little more honest in this 20 and 30, failure sucks. Sometimes you don't want to make a choice because you're afraid of what could happen with that choice, and you're like, I don't care. But then you have people that you truly do care about. You've got your wife and your kids that you care about. I think as an entrepreneur, it's never easy, right? You look at that choice or decision you can make and you say, man, if I fail, will I be able to pick myself up? Of course, you go, oh yeah, I can, but you get crushed. It's easy to get crushed on that fear of failure. So I steer into failure, but I'm scared of failure.
I can so relate to that. And I think so many in our audience can relate to that. It almost helps get those butterflies going in the right direction. It almost has you over-prepare. It almost has you try to learn everything about what leadership is about so that you can minimize failure since you're afraid of it.
Agree. And that's why I go out and I train and everything else, Carm. But, COVID-19, man, if it taught us anything, like failure is not about you. It can be about you, but a lot of times there's just things outside of your realm you just can't control. So we do everything we can to prepare, but then you get a baseball bat upside the head and there's still unknown things out there that happen.
Is the word fun in your vocabulary?
It is. The word fun is.
What do you do?
Spending time with my family is fun. And I have two daughters that are 10 and 11 right now. And I have a wife that I love. And I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I like to work on business. I like to buy things. I like to sell things. I like stock market. I like to build things. I have lots of teams, lots of people. I don't get a lot of downtime. I don't have a lot of friends. Carm, I consider you a friend. And I have friends, but I don't have like a lot of close friends other than my wife and kids. So when I turn it off, I like to engage with my wife and kids because I get minimal amount of time with them. So fun to me is going ice skating on a Sunday, on Family Sunday Fun Day. And we did that a couple Sundays ago. We went ice skating and it was glorious. For 2 hours, yeah, my feet were hurting, but it was fantastic. Going and kicking a soccer ball out in the field, fantastic. I don't care, just as long as with my family. We went skiing. A couple weeks into January, we went up to the mountains. We went skiing and we went snowboarding and we went to go to hot springs and to me, that is fun time. I'm still working. My mind's still working the whole time I'm out there. But you know what? I get to at least see the mountain and go, wow, this is what God put, I can breathe for a minute and see that beautiful mountain, or I can see the beautiful landscape and go, wow, that's why I'm here. 1
minute. You stopped and concentrated on the beauty, and then you were right back at it. I'm telling you and I are so alike. I mean, it's scary. I'm sitting here saying, is that me talking? Hey, what's a big concern or threat to your business?
Consolidation. We continue to read about it. We continue to hear about it. And this is for the software company and for the auto repair shops. It's just going to continue to happen. And why is that, right? And I think it has to do with consolidation of driving. I think it has to do with fleets. I think we're going to continue to see these companies or technology companies that are building fleets, driverless fleets, and they're going to need coverage. And they're not going to trust just anybody's repair shop to fix these cars and to service these cars. Elon Musk has come out and he said, you guys can't fix my cars. I'm going to build shops to fix my cars because you're not capable of doing it. Now he's going to find out that it's a lot harder. And, you got 3-week backups on Teslas right now or month to get them out. So he's going to have to leverage these auto repair shops. But I think what he's going to do is he's going to look for these multi-shop operations that can do it.
The best of the best who want to certify, who want to train, who want to have the right equipment.
And that have coverage. It can't be coverage just in Dallas, in Wiley and Rowlett. It's going to be nationwide coverage.
I can almost see that, Golden Rule Auto Care has, authorized by Tesla or something and that would mean as much as an ASE certification or a Blue Seal shop. you've been through, you qualify for, and it goes back to the reputation, the culture, and all that stuff. Tesla doesn't have that, and look what they could get if they married into strong independence, like you say.
And you look at the money that's coming in, Carm, the money that's being dumped. Look at the consolidation. Okay, so maybe some of these guys that are coming in don't understand the industry, but man, they're putting lots of money into it. And they're going to figure it out, because I'm not saying money rules all, but money certainly helps fix problems. If you have enough of it and you hire enough smart people to fix the problem, they figure it out.
Yeah, the Neighborhood Professional Service Center is pretty sexy today for private equity, isn't it?
It's a lot of money out there. Yeah, everybody has figured out that this is a billion-dollar industry. So you got Amazon coming in parts, and you got all kinds of people coming in and building, technology for driverless cars. There's a lot of money that continues to be dumped into here.
It's going to be fun. Question number 8, Chris, how do you manage work-life harmony? I heard your story about having fun, but do you have to force yourself to make that happen? Yeah.
I do. I allow myself certain hours of the day and certain days on the weekend, and then I have to turn it off. And so in the evenings when I turn it off, I have to put my phone on the counter, and then I have to limit the amount of times that I get to touch the phone. I don't make phone calls during that time. I don't get on my computer during that time. And then Sunday, fun day, family fun day, same thing. I limit the amount of work that I can do. Now, outside of there, I can work at night. I can work in the morning. I can work all day. I can spend as much time as I want, but then I carve out certain hours of the week and certain hours on the weekend to be focused on my family. Now, does it always work that way? Unfortunately, there are times where I get pulled out into something that I want, or my mind just can't disengage. But I try and do my best, because I realize my girls, once again, are 10 and 11. They love me right now. And by 15, 16, they're going to want me away. They're not going to want me around. So while they can hug me and love me, I'm going to try and engage in that time, because I know soon enough they'll flip the script and boys will be part of their life and everything else. So
I wrote down, because I love taking notes when I'm learning things, and I wrote 2 words: no touch. And it would almost be a discipline that says, you see that black thing laying over there, that smartphone. Ooh, that's a bad name, smartphone. It's almost a dichotomy, but I love that discipline, yeah. Question 9, what did you sacrifice in the early days to get where you are today, and do you regret it?
So what we were talking about earlier, I don't have a lot of close friends. So I've sacrificed friendships. I've sacrificed a lot of relationships earlier on when I was trying to do what I've done. And I did that in the band too. We go tour and people would be like, well, why do you got to go out of town this weekend? You're always out of town. So I kind of started myself down that path then, and then just kind of continued. It's very easy for me to pour myself into work. I don't want to ignore my family, but I'm not going to ignore everybody else. So I don't really get to play with the band guys anymore. I don't really get to go jam anymore. I really don't. Now I could choose to go do these things. I don't really get to go play golf, because everybody's going playing golf, or everybody's going to go to Mexico for a week and go fishing. And, I used to do a lot of these trips when I was working a job, but now I don't. Go up to the mountains with my wife and kids. My laptop's with me, and they know I'm going to be working, not on the slopes. We get home, I'm going to, do what I need to do. And then we might go to the hot tubs, but then I'll come back, I'll do what I need to do. So just those relationships that I've sacrificed over the years. Now I've gotten used to it. Now what's going to suck is probably, if I sell everything and become, independently wealthy person, I'm not going to have any friends, but I'm sure that a lot of people won't come spend my money. So I'm sure they'll show up at my doorstep. But I don't think I regret a whole lot of it. It's, you have to make trade-offs and sacrifices. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that you can't watch TV 3 hours a day if you're going to run 3 companies. But that's an easy sacrifice for me. I don't watch football. I don't even know who won the Super Bowl. I do, because it's all over the news and stuff, and I go to the gym every morning. But I make sacrifices. I don't do a lot of the, I don't go do the social hour. I don't go do a lot of that stuff, because I want to stay focused on, the business and stuff like that.
We're so alike. I have a very strong intuition. Do you?
I think my gut is one of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership that John Maxwell talks about, and this law of the intuition, and it's your gut. And it's funny, earlier on in my career, people used to tell me, no, you need to know the numbers and be careful about your gut, because your gut will mislead you. I always kind of followed my gut, but I kind of got to what they were saying, which is, hey, you could still know the numbers and then still follow your gut. Just realize the risk and the reward that you're potentially going into.
But when you follow the numbers and your gut tells you where you were, the numbers are proving it right, your intuition gets better, sharper, smarter.
It does. But I've also gone against the numbers, knowing the risk, and I've been successful in that direction as well. So, but you're absolutely right. When things line up, they tend to line up and things tend to go on. But my gut, even if numbers are right or wrong, I do like to go on intuition. It's a guiding beacon light if you can listen to it and you can find the time to try and listen to what you're telling yourself.
It's almost like it's a warning sign. It's a pounce, get ready, you got to do this sign. I listen to it, but then I don't always jump in the deep end of the pool when it tells me to. I would listen to my gut 80% of the time.
So a good example is like during COVID, when all this started going down, like my gut told me, go tell your guys what's going on. Tell them that you might have to lay people off. Tell them you might have to cut salaries. Tell them all these things very early on. And very early on, within a week or two, I'm like, you can hide it. We can see what happens. But I set everybody down. I said, look, here's the grim reality of what we could do. Now, after a couple months, we had a meeting and one of my guys said, you know what we appreciate? We appreciated your honesty and it was scary for all of us. But to know that you were aware of it and that you weren't trying to BS us was a good thing. So most of the time when I follow my gut, then it tends to do well, right? The payoff tends to be better than it's not.
Question 11, get any great advice that you still follow today?
I do. I wrote a song about it, and it's my dad. And I can remember this man from a very young age. He'd say, gonna lie with the dogs, Chris, you're gonna get fleas. And I'm like, okay, because I used to run with a bad crowd when I was younger. Unfortunately, I was in the computer lab teaching computer class because my instructors didn't know what Pascal was, and I did. But then after school, I would be hanging with all the long hairs and the rock guys, and my dad would always say, Chris, you're going to lay with the dogs, you're going to get fleas, lay with the dogs. And then finally one day I got older and I said, Dad, does this mean if I lay with good dogs, do I get good fleas? And he chuckled. He said, yes, son, absolutely. So I figured if you lay with good dogs, you're still going to get fleas, but those fleas may be good fleas.
Is this a country western song or a rock song?
It was a rock song. There's one line in there that says, you lay with the dogs, you're going to get fleas, right? And it's just a reminder to me that lay with good dogs, don't lay with bad ones.
Hey, Carm here, and coming up, learn why Chris shares his financial statements with his team. I can't say enough about the quality of instructors and the high level of technical and management training that was offered during the recent virtual Apex experience. Now, the great news is that show organizers for Apex 2021 are already hard at work to again assemble the best and the brightest instructors and the most timely and needed training for shop owners and technicians. Watch for a robust schedule of training and product demos on topics such as wheel alignment and ADAS calibrations. Also, training on how to be an effective leader, engine performance, diagnostic strategies, controller area networks, and using social media to grow your business. Now, those are just to name a few. With this caliber of training, make sure Apex 2021 is on your calendar November 2nd through the 4th in Las Vegas. And together, let's make 2021 the year of growing sales, profits, and productivity for your business. Listen here for more Apex 2021 training and registration information. Shopware's innovative shop management system will give you back your time and put more money in your pocket. Make the switch today and watch technician efficiency gain 20%, enjoy increased recommended service, and even grow the highest parts profit margins ever with the smallest amount of work. Steve from Ultimate Automotive says, I love that Shopware lets you complete every estimate on the inspection, and we even have a higher ARO, receive more approvals, and have had a significant increase in revenue. With our previous SMS, estimating was limited because it was so time-consuming. This impacted not only what we could sell on each customer's current visit, but also what we would have prepared for following visits. Hey, your peers are happy. Let Shopware work for you. Book a demo at getshopware.com. Chris, how does one start to build a strong business culture?
It starts with the leader. And this is what your podcast show focuses on greatly, is leadership. I'd say, if anything, go listen to Carm's archives of leadership. But people always wonder, is culture, I should celebrate their birthdays. Look, I'm not saying celebrating birthdays is a good thing or a bad thing. If you don't care about birthdays, then don't go force culture into your culture. Find the things that you're really good at, that you care about, and then your people are going to see that. Too many times as leaders, we try and force all this culture and forced fun, and it doesn't work. So you as the leader need to find out what your strengths are and what you're really good at and what you like, and then your people naturally draw to that. My guys know that I'm frugal, I'm cheap. I'll go straight to the point. They know things. I don't have to say, oh man, I'm a soft guy that, let's go spend lots of money. Like, I don't have to convince them of who I am. They already know that, right? So I try and find things that work in my culture based off of my personality.
Genuinity.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a word, but that's what you just said. Yeah, it should be. Be genuine.
Be genuine. Care, right? I mean, if you hate yourself too as a leader, and you hate, like, look in the mirror and tell yourself, if you run a shop, man, you are a leader. Own up to it and be it and figure it out and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I'll tell you, it's a trap. A lot of people, once again, goes back to what I just said a little while ago. If birthdays are your thing and you love birthdays, then celebrate birthdays, man. Make that huge. Give them their day off. Do that. But if your guys like to play poker and you like to play poker, go have a poker night with your guys. Right. And they'll be like, man, this is cool. The boss is sitting down with, I know there's some instructors and trainers that'll be like, don't hang out with your people. But man, if that's how you connect, then go connect with them. If you're one of the leaders that don't, you're like, nah, I like the line, then keep the line, but find other ways to build that. Good stuff. Thanks so much. We learn from our mistakes. What's one of your biggest? My biggest mistakes is, I think, earlier on in life, not realizing, and I'm not saying this is my calling, I have to use it carefully, but realizing the path. A lot of times I think we fight our path, and I think the Lord naturally puts us on paths. And just like our gut kind of tells us when you're moving down the right path, and it may be a road less traveled, and everybody might tell you that it's not the right road. But if your intuition and the Lord's pushing you there, I think that's where you need to go, right? I mean, Carm, so you've had other jobs in your life and you've done other things in your life, but you continue to have a lot of success with what you're doing now. That's the path you're on. It's a good path. It's hard, but man, you do great. You've added so much to the industry, right? So it's kind of like I would go work for people in my earlier careers because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought I was supposed to get a job. I thought I was supposed to fall in line. I was supposed to go with the wife, the kids. And then I found out, no, I should listen more to what that path, my intuition and what the Lord has and go down it. I see it too many times, like they'll make a suggestion, Carm, like, hey, I really want to try this. And then I'll see 20 other people in the room go, no, that's a dumb idea. That's a dumb idea. And I'm like, man, if your gut's telling you go do it, you go do it. And you could be the one guy that figured it out and the 19 that didn't figure it out. And guess what they're doing next week? They're going to be asking you how you went and did it. So, not listening to, on an early age about I could tell you about how I had traffic detector when I was younger. I had a casino online when I was younger. I had all these things I've started building. I built a collaborative school environment online. I had all these products I was building. And this is 20, 30 years ago. But I got talked out of it. And I always got talked back in to go back and, fall in line and do this. And I mean, I don't know what my role would be if I would have been more of an entrepreneur and bought into that earlier on in life.
When I look back at all the things that I either wanted to do, I tried to do, that I was good at, that I failed at, Chris, could you look back and say, although that got me to where I am today?
So one of the major failures, one thing that I failed at that got me where I am today, the band. Even though people are like, hey, you're somewhat successful, it wasn't to the point that I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be doing it for a living, Carm. I wanted to have songs on the radio. I wanted to have songs on commercials. I went into radio. I was overnight DJ. I was like, I'll get behind the curtains and I will figure out this industry and I will do everything I can to make it successful. And I failed. But you know what? All what I learned from that whole experience on how to manage people and how to manage business and I took all that and I've used it. I've used the guerrilla marketing tactics 1,000 times over because we used to do all kinds of guerrilla marketing. So and then people go, well, that wasn't a failure, Chris, because you did have songs on college radio and you guys played for 12 years but it wasn't the level of success that I wanted, right? And that's the difference, right? People tell you, oh, you're successful, and it's like, no, you get to define it. Other people don't get to define it for you.
You said you were a DJ, and by the way, so was I on radio. The more I get so deep in the friends that I have in the industry, and I find out more and more about them, it's amazing how many of our lives are parallel. And when I found out some very interesting things about a few of my great friends in the industry a few weeks ago, I said, here's me, ADD brain going at 90 miles an hour. I says, I've got to create a show called You Didn't Know This About Me. So we have this panel together, and you come and says, I used to be a DJ. I had this dream about being a rock person. And I says, I was a DJ, and I was a wedding DJ for years and years. I know. And it's amazing how we look back at what we did and where we've come from. And thank you for bringing that out. I know this is your show, not mine, but
Christian Rock. That was my DJ moniker, Christian Rock, for the buzz.
Question 14, have you ever had a mentor?
I have, and I still do. I have lots of mentors, advisors, mentors, starting with my dad at a very early age. It's funny, we look at our fathers and we're like, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. And then you get old enough to where your dad starts imparting wisdom on you, and it just changed your life. And it's funny, I worked in an internship with him when I was 16, 17 years old at his company. And we would drive every morning to work, and then we would drive together, and we'd commute, and then we'd commute home. And I can remember him telling me, Chris, you got a lot of things going on. At that time, I was a little bit angry. I was a little bit confused. And he said, Chris, I think you should read a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And boy, I'll tell you, that changed the course of my life forever. I finally found a book that I thought, man, this makes sense. So I started reading for information, because I always, in school, they made you read for stuff that I did not care about. But that was kind of there's actually books about things that I can learn about people, and I can learn about management and leadership and all that. So it changed me dramatically. And then from then, I learned that having people people advising you is a great thing. I say this, Carm, I tell my people all this time. I think I've said this on your show before. Feedback is a gift, like on Christmas morning. Just receive it, take it in, open it up, tell that person thank you. And then after that person isn't looking anymore, throw it away, re-gift it, or actually take it. But don't throw it back in the person's face when they're giving it to you, right? They're trying to give you a gift. They're trying to tell you something. A lot of times we just throw it back in people's faces. So even where I'm at, multiple advisors, multiple 20 groups, I'm all about people giving me and telling me what to do. Now, I get to decide ultimately what I'm going to do. They can tell me all day, but I think that's where we get a lot of our insight, outside input.
Thank you for that. A great quote about fathers. The older I get, the smarter my dad gets. Yeah, that's exactly what I heard you say. Question 15, Chris, how much training per year do you get?
We've talked about this too before on your show, Toastmasters. I'm a Toastmaster, still am, have been for many years. So I get a minimum of 40 hours, because it's 1 hour every week, 52 weeks. Of course, I don't go every week, but I try and make it the most. So you get a minimum of 40 just starting off. Then I'm part of 20 groups. I believe 20 group, when I sit in there for 2 days, 2.5 days, that's training, because you're getting to pick other people's brains. And that's 3 times, 4 times a year. And then I go to conferences. And one thing you'll notice about when I go to conferences, Carm, is I'm sitting in the classrooms. I listen, I watch, I know the instructors, I know what they're teaching. If it's a new instructor, I'm going to listen. If it's a new topic, I'm going to listen. If it's an old topic, I might just go in to listen just to refresh myself on what it is. I could do up to 120, 160 hours a year easily in training.
Question 16, a secret to a good job interview.
I don't think I'm perfect at job interviews, but I think I've gotten a lot better over the years, and it has everything to do with behavioral interviewing skills. You can learn so much if you don't ask, hey, have you ever done an oil change before? But just ask them, walk me through the last oil change you did. It's good for technical knowledge. But I'll tell you this, tell me about the last time you had a problem with somebody on your team. How did you resolve it? Tell me about the last boss you had. Tell me about the last problem you had with the boss you had. How did you resolve it? You can find out so much asking them about scenarios that happen in their life. And there's all kinds of behavioral questions you can ask. And then if you're really good, then you can start going and continue to go down that road. I had this one interview about 2 weeks ago, and I had one of my managers sitting there with me. the things that were coming out of this guy's mouth were horrendous. I had this guy, and I'm not going to repeat anything. They were just amazing. But I just kept going down and kept the line, and it was all behavioral, and it was all around this. Well, let me follow up with this. And he goes, Chris, I don't know why you didn't end it after 5 minutes. I ended up going 30 minutes. And I said, look, because we should get better at our interviewing skills. So I'm still going to practice my interviewing skills, and I'm still going to do this. And he goes, I could not believe what you had that guy saying by the end of the interview. He said, he goes, my mouth dropped. He goes, that was one of the best interviews I've ever seen you do. Because he goes, the stuff that he goes, I wouldn't even known to ask most of those questions.
Let me ask you this question. If it doesn't start out well, did it ever end well and hire that person?
I don't know that I've ever had that scenario where it hadn't started out well. Most of the time, they're either really good at the beginning and they stay good, or they're really bad at the beginning and they stay bad.
Question 17, would your organization crumble if you stepped aside?
I hope that it would not. I have been spending a lot of time trying to train my leaders to be leaders. And it's one of the things in my organization, in Auto Text Me and in Golden Rule. I have a guy who's training all of them right now. So they spend time with them every couple of weeks, and they talk about all kinds of different soft skills. Leadership is all about soft skills. Management is all about accountability and process and procedure. And process procedure is easy, but it's not, because if you're a good leader, you realize that, man, you can make exceptions, you can bend rules, but you have to understand what you're doing, and you have to understand those soft skills. And I think a lot of times we promote somebody up because they're good at regimen, they're good at process, but then they lack the soft skills and leadership skills. So I love Peter Thiel, 0 to 1. There's a lot of, he had the PayPal mafia. All the people that worked at PayPal that were his leaders all went off and had wildly successful careers running other companies. And I love that. I'm like, I want that. I want to build an organization of leaders that if they leave, people go, man, all Chris's guys from Auto Text Me or from Golden Rule, they have gone off and they can do anything, anywhere, at any organization, because these are just well-trained, very well-adapted leaders.
There's not enough in our industry with that mentality, if I train them and they leave. Well, if you got to contribute to the overall success of that individual. And I think we're in an narcissistic style of thinking too much. Question 18, Chris, do you share your financial statements with your team?
Both the shop and the software company, we share financials. And I think it's one of those gut intuition things that we thought about years ago. And you talk to people who are like, I would never show my people financials. Here's the problem. They know your financials. They know what you're making. And the problem is, if you don't show them your financials, they think that you're taking that $1 million in gross sales and that's all going in your pocket. If they don't understand the expenses and the overhead and all the things that go along with it, then they come to their own conclusions. But if you show it all to them, you explain it to them, then they're a lot less hesitant to think that you're as rich as they perceive you to be.
We did a Town Hall Academy episode number 210 called Where the Money Goes, the $100 lesson. And it is all about getting your people to respect and understand where the $100 goes, what's at the end, and why making a net profit is so important in the company. Security, raises, equipment, well-being. And it is a great exercise. It was Patrick McHugh that came on with me and did that. And ironically, that exact exercise that we did in a podcast, you can actually, in the show notes page, you can get the PowerPoint that we used to show and explain all the different envelope. It's an envelope. You give people money in an envelope. It's really kind of a cool exercise. I did it 20-some years ago. I have to tell you a story. I had someone message me that said, I saw Carm do this 20 years ago. Isn't that wild, the impression that you made on somebody that long ago?
And I also think it's important too, right? I mean, if you're building leaders and everything else in your organization, Carm, or you're looking for leaders and you're building them, they need to know the financials. They can't be blind if you continue to elevate your people. They have to know what's happening underneath the covers.
Question 19, Chris, do you see obstacles not as roadblocks, but as opportunities?
Man, I like this question. The problem with my mind is I see too many opportunities, right? It's you, right? Everything you're like, oh man,
Got to do this. Got to do this. Got to do
What
this.
can I do with this? Oh, there's a huge opportunity. There's an obstacle there. How could we remove that obstacle? How could we turn that into opportunity? My mind goes to gap analysis. Where are there gaps? And then let me fill those in. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I want to find things that other people aren't doing. And that's typically the obstacles, and then figure out how to jump over those, go around them, dig under them, tunnel through them. So I see opportunities a lot of times as our obstacles as opportunities. I had a boss that I was going to say that we would drive by, and he got me onto this very early on in my career, in my life. And we'd drive by empty malls or empty strip malls. And he would say, "What would you put in there?" And I'd say, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, what store would you put in there?" And I go, "Well, I don't know." And he goes, "Well, I'd put a fashion boutique store in there. Cause see, there's this store right here, and it's by the school right here, and you can have high school kids." And I'm like, oh my, it was a wonderful exercise in putting your mind. And so now I can't go anywhere. The problem is now I can't go anywhere, Carm. I'll go to a resort and I'll be like, look at that cabin right there. It's for rent. I wonder if I could rent that out, or on and on and on and on and on.
It's scary how you and I think. I wrote a blog, I think it was a couple of Mondays ago. I sent it out to the newsletter, and I'm walking through the big 1 million square foot mall here in Western New York, and I'm starting to take pictures of these closed storefronts from these incredibly big national retailers that are just gone. And my question not only was COVID, poor management, but I started to think about all the workers that own vehicles. How can I relate it to our industry? But of course, it happens, right? And then there's Lord & Taylor's that's closed. What could they do with that building? Who else is out there that could come into a 2-story building? And you wonder if brick and mortar will ever survive.
It will, to some degree, right? Because even Amazon went out and bought all these grocery stores, and they bought you still have to have points of distribution. It's just the model's going to change, but you're still always going to need dirt. Now it's going to morph. It's going to change. But you're going to need the dirt and the storage facilities for it.
This was just so good. We have one more question, but this was so good. Thank you. The final question, number 20. Who is someone that you really admire?
I saved this best one for last. And I don't come out a lot, Carm, with my religious beliefs and stuff, but I'll tell you, I've got a couple. And I'll tell you, one is Jesus. I mean, he's a true servant leader. I hear this tossed around a lot, servant leadership. I mean, you want to find a really good servant leader. There's actually a couple books about Jesus and servant leadership that I think are wonderful. I mean, he would wash the feet of his apostles. You talk about a guy who changed history forever. Whether you believe whatever you believe, this guy was hugely influential to everything we've done. And the 12 people that he was, you talk about a guy elevating leaders to leaders that became leaders and leaders and leaders and leaders. But I think we use this term servant leadership a little bit too loosely sometimes. None of your employees ever wake up in the morning saying, God, I'm going to suck today. God, I'm going to rob the business of all their money. God, I'm going to totally piss off my boss by taking 5 extra minutes at lunch. But that's what we think. Right? And then we're like, no, we want to be servant leaders, but we don't take the time to say, hey, you know what, Carm, I noticed that you took a little extra time, lunch, or you've been having, man, is there something going on? Can I help you with something? Is there something? But we go to immediately jump to conclusions that Carm is not a good person and that he has all these ill will, malintentions, and it's malicious, but it's typically not. There's a lot of really good people out there that just get in bad situations or have bad habits. And us as true leaders, we need to look through that and say, man, how can we? Because we look in the mirror, we're all full of flaws, and none of us are perfect, right? None of us are even close to perfect. So I think taking that and looking at that and truly looking through the lens of somebody like that and forgiveness and grace. I love the word grace, right? I mean, a lot of times we just. You just put that word and lock it in your head and say, hey, can I give this person grace right now? Am I giving them grace right now? Or am I looking through this filter that's just a filter that is blinded by all these past things that I think have accumulated and this person just sucks? No, they don't. I'm telling you, most of the time, your people are just people trying to live, and they're trying to bring food home for their wives and their kids, and they're trying to buy a house, and they're trying to do. And I tell you, I think what's wrong with America just in general, Carm, is, we have guys that make trillions and trillions of dollars now. And then, but I think there's a lot of really good owners out there, and the aftermarket especially. I think there's a lot of us that really do treat their people really well, and we take care of our flocks and we take care of our sheep. But then you got, your trillionaires who are like, okay, hold on, you're making trillions. What are you really doing to help the people below you? Sam Walton, great. If you read about him, Walmart used to have one of the highest hourly wages. They love Sam Walton. He was a $400,000 CEO when his company was making hundreds of millions of dollars. He's driving around an old beat up Ford. He didn't. And, I like stories like that. I think that kind of guy is a servant type leader that we all should aspire to be, right? Yeah. Let's look to Jesus for our, for I think a lot of things that we could really learn from a great servant leader.
Wise beyond your years. We learned an awful lot from Chris Cloutier, CEO of Autotex.me, and of course, Golden Rule Auto Care in Dallas. Thank you so much for being here. 20 questions in just slightly over 30 minutes, but refreshingly smart, witty, and I learned a lot myself. Thanks, Chris, for being here.
Appreciate it, Carm. Anytime.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.